For years, we've been showing you the ways African-American cemeteries have been erased and destroyed throughout the Tampa Bay area and all the outrage that followed.
Most recently, 10 Investigates Emerald Morrow revealed why hundreds of graves from the St. Joseph Aid Cemetery could be under homes at a church lot in East Tampa.
In January, the city said it formed an internal task force to address cemetery issues, which it is allowed to do. But they've already been making policy recommendations without public input, which First Amendment experts say could violate sunshine laws.
The sunshine we get all year round is one of the best things about living here in Florida. And our sunshine laws are one of the best things we have for government transparency. So when we found out the city has a task force that meets regularly to talk about these erased cemeteries, we started filing public records requests to see exactly what they're talking about, because we know so many of you all care about this issue.
I just can't tell you how I feel right now that they would do this to the First Black Cemetery and us, our people, my people.
Between 2019 and 2020, nearly 300 graves from Zion Cemetery found under public housing apartments, a towing lot, and a local business property.
We want accountability. We want reparation. We want redemption for the damage that was done to our community.
Damage that continues. Robert Murchison, Isaiah Adams, Johnny Mae Reeves, all death certificates we found of people buried in the St. Joseph Aid Cemetery, a black cemetery founded by a prominent pastor, businessman, and civic leader. A cemetery nowhere to be found in modern records. We looked for months, scanning microfilm for property records.
All right, I think this might be the one.
Searching statewide for sensitive documents. We eventually found 2 deeds and a plat map from the early 1900s. An archaeologist helped us place the cemetery at the corner of Genesee and 34th Street in East Tampa.
My sisters and I used to pass that cemetery every day on our way to school.
Harold Evans lives a few blocks away and grew up in the area.
I knew there was tombstones there. So what happened to them, I don't know.
No one really does. Records show burials continued through 1940. But we got these tax records from 1937 that show the state took the land for taxes. That's a little odd because cemetery property isn't supposed to be taxed. It was eventually sold and reparceled, and 3 homes, as well as a church lot, cover the property today.
I think something should be done to rectify this behavior.
We can't right past wrongs, but certainly we can acknowledge those and apologize for the wrongs of our community in the past.
In January, the city of Tampa announced plans to take over maintenance for Memorial Cemetery. This came after the owner died a few years back. The city did this to prevent another black cemetery from becoming erased. At this same press conference, the city announced its cemetery task force had already been working on some of these issues.
It's important to me because being an African American, being black, I feel that I have a vested interest to make sure that these cemeteries are protected.
Meet Osea Wynn. She runs the Department of Neighborhood and Community Affairs. She also heads up the city's cemetery task force.
I think the very first important decision that we made is to work with our city council and change our land use code for our cemeteries to park space and open land. And that's important because that allows it to be a more challenging process to use these cemeteries for anything other than a cemetery.
This will protect city-owned land, but it won't do much to address cases like Zion or St. Joseph Aid, where the property was taken and the cemetery most likely destroyed.
It really hasn't been much of a conversation with the city as of now.
Yvette Lewis is president of the Hillsborough branch of the NAACP. She served on the state's task force for abandoned African American cemeteries, but she says she knows very little about the one for the city.
I've always expressed interest in wanting to be involved.
The task force sent the NAACP a letter last October, but Yvette says there's been no invitation to the group.
Does the city or does the task force post this information publicly anywhere so that the community can know about when these meetings are happening?
No.
It's an internal meeting.
It's an internal
meeting. It
meeting.
doesn't get posted to the public because it's an internal meeting.
That raises a question. Should it be?
Staffers who work for public officials are not subject to the Sunshine Law. But if this is an advisory board gathering information to make policy or even to make policy recommendations, they are making decisions for the public, and those meetings should be open under the Sunshine Law.
One of the things that was discussed was working to change some of the zoning policies as it relates to some of the cemeteries. Would that fall under what you were just talking about?
Yes, absolutely. Zoning decisions are one of the premier kinds of meetings and decision-making that should be open to the public and have public participation.
Records show the task force is looking into a number of issues related to zoning, real estate, and how the cemetery issues should be handled. Experts say that's a good thing, but most likely should be happening for all to see.
If this task force is truly making decisions for the city of Tampa in a way that will affect burial grounds and cemeteries where people should be honored, that seems like a critical point in which the public should be participating.
Lewis agrees.
You talk about African American cemeteries that were erased. You talk about land that was stolen. You talk about land that was forgotten because the people couldn't say anything about it. Wouldn't you want to fix that?
A spokesperson for the city says the task force has not broken any open meetings laws because members only share ideas and research.
First Amendment experts say even if the city didn't technically break a law, the closed meetings violate the spirit of the Sunshine Laws meant to give open access to government proceedings at the state and local levels.